Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia Vogel, and I'm a local food coordinator here at the Kentucky Center for Agriculture and Rural Development, or KCARD. I am so excited to present in the Organic Association of Kentucky Conference 2021. If you would have told me 10 years ago that I would be presenting at an organic conference, I would not have believed you. I was raised on a conventional grain farm, and I've had an interesting relationship with organics. But everything that I've been taught about local food was taught to me by organic farmers here in Kentucky, and I'm so grateful for that background. I love OAK as an organization, and I'm so excited about the work that they are doing in Kentucky. The topic I'm going to talk about today is determining markets that fit your farm. And I know this may not be the most exciting topic of all of the other awesome presenters, but I think it's really important to view your farm as a business and sometimes make tough business decisions, maybe to focus on one market versus another. So today we're just going to talk about some of the distinctions between markets. I think this presentation is going to be ideal for maybe a beginning farmer, maybe in the planning stages or kind of in your first 5 years, trying to figure out where you really fit in the marketplace. So I hope to give you an overview today that will be helpful as you determine that for your own farm. So just what I want to communicate today is that targeting every market channel is not a good idea for most farms. And that's not a good idea because even though you might be selling a very similar product, the buyers are completely different. So there's distinctions between markets, and that goes all the way from what they want in a product, how it should be packaged, what kind of record keeping you need to do, how much of the marketing and customer relations is on you or not, food safety requirements, how fast they pay you. It's all very different depending on your buyers. So let's consider some of those things and see what makes sense for your farm business. So I think it can be really tempting, especially for beginning farmers, to just take every market opportunity that comes their way, to be excited about that. Uh, and you might need to go through that to figure out what's best for you. However, let's not just be shooting a little bit of everywhere. Let's really try to dial in on your market so that you can be more efficient. You don't have to be involved in everything that comes your way. It could be more profitable. So I picked those pictures on the left there just to show you the difference, both organic, obviously one's a vegetable and one's a meat, but just so different in terms of display, refrigeration, packaging. One is probably an on-farm store, whereas the other is a retail meat case. So today we're going to talk about the markets of direct marketing, wholesale marketing, and what I'm going to call like a hybrid, which is kind of a choosing to do a little bit of both of them. And we're going to talk about these marketing channels in the context of marketing, food safety and insurance, production, and profit. So let's just dive right in. So starting out with direct marketing is a really popular option here in this state. And what I mean, what's included in direct marketing is direct to consumer sales is what I would consider it, or farmers markets, on-farm stores, roadside stands, U-pick operations, CSAs, online sales, whether it's a shipping business, you're shipping all across the country, or whether it's online purchasing for local pickup. All of these are included in direct marketing. In Kentucky, in the 2019 USDA Organic Survey, it came back that farmers in Kentucky sold 2.13 million direct to consumer in Kentucky in 2019. And this was the larger number out of the other category that we'll get to on the next slide. I think it's probably still a little bit underrepresented than what's actually happening in the state. But there's several example farms to look to in this state. They're doing a great job of direct marketing organic products, whether it's vegetables or meat or even some small grains. So there's several to look to for mentors, examples, but that also means that there's competition. So just something to know. Starting out with marketing, your consumers are really going to want to know their farmer. So several, I don't know if it's really research studies, but data kind of comes back and says that the most important thing that consumers care about is having a sense of knowing their farmer. That's what makes them buy, not necessarily the extra labels. Uh, it's the feeling that they can know their farmer and they trust their farmer. Obviously, those labels are very important. They can distinguish your product from others. They help communicate to your customer a certain level of production and trust, obviously, with the organic label. But again, the most important thing is that you help your customers know you. So that might looks different for everyone. You don't have to share, if you have children, you don't have to share pictures of your children, but you might. It's totally fine, whatever you choose to do. But just communicating who you are and the essence of your farm is important. The other thing I want to note is that your marketing materials need to be very consumer oriented. And so cooking tips, recipes, demos, maybe in the world of COVID, social media videos, tours of the farm, all of it's oriented towards that eater of your product. Next, food safety and insurance is going to be pretty minimal if you're direct marketing. So examples of stuff you might need are produce best practices training or PBPT, sampling certificate once we can sample at farmers markets again, home-based microprocessor workshop. These are going to be low in cost, minimal in training, less than a day probably a statewide certificate. But one thing I do want to emphasize about food safety is that it's not just about the certificate, it's about the practices in place, how you handle your product. So if it's a vegetables, the harvest and the wash pack line and your cooling, or if it's meat, the cleanliness of the processing facility and your transportation practices. All of that is like directly related to quality of your product. And the quality of your product is going to be really important in establishing your reputation. We know that word of mouth is one of the strongest marketing tools you can have, especially on social media these days. And so if someone gets, dirty or wilty product, it's not going to bode very well for your reputation. So food safety is much more than just the certificate, and you should focus on that, having good food safety practices. Insurance, so there's two different sides of the coin on insurance. There's product liability insurance, where anytime you're selling something that has a risk to the consumer, which we know if you're feeding people, there's an inherent risk there. And there's also crop insurance. So historically, you might only think of crop insurance as something that maybe grain farmers are eligible for, or dairy farmers, maybe not like this market style diversified grower that you might be. That is not necessarily the case anymore. There's something called whole farm revenue insurance, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But the thing that I want to communicate now is that the more reliant you are on farm income for your means of providing for yourself financially, the more important it's going to be to make sure you are insured. And that might be through a crop insurance plan. CSA can sort of be a form of insurance sometimes. It totally depends on your perspective there. But just thinking about both product liability insurance and crop insurance. On the product liability insurance, a lot of times if you're direct marketing your product, as long as you talk to your insurance agent, clearly communicate what you're doing, how much you're selling, what your needs are, they can make sure you're covered in your kind of standard farm plan. It probably won't be a huge additional cost. So production for direct marketing, I wanted to stop here and say that I think for organic farmers, whether you're transitioning or whether you're starting out from organic from the beginning, direct marketing can be a great marketplace for you because you don't necessarily have to commit to producing a certain number of pounds of tomatoes on the second week of August and you've got to have them harvested. If they come in, a week early or 2 weeks late, you just bring them to market or sell them through your CSA, just just as you would. You're not with some other market channels like wholesale, like you're committing to certain quantities at certain times of the year. And if you're beginning, you might not know uh, when your production is gonna come in. You might not know when a big flush of a new crop is gonna be ready to harvest. So this can be a more flexible market channel for folks who are just starting out. There's also going to be less of an upfront investment required to start in this market channel. So you can, a lot of times maybe just start out with pickup truck, family van for harvesting, transportation. You don't need to have the cooler from field to your pack shed. You can make do with smaller tools, maybe even, not your dream tools, but it's just a way to can be a way to get started. You might have it as a goal to have much more efficient and better production and harvest and packing infrastructure 5 years down the road and still be in this direct marketing channel, but it's not necessarily a requirement to start, and that's what I want to communicate. Also, there's the potential to be very productive on less acreage or with less in production. So could be a good opportunity for beginners or for people who are just have constraints of land or capital. So finally, I think this is a really important point. Something that can draw people to direct marketing is that they see this very high sales price that they're selling it directly to the consumer, so they get the full amount of money into their cash box, which I think that's amazing, and many farmers don't have control over that, so it's an awesome way to go. However, I just want a word of warning that higher sales price per unit does not necessarily guarantee profit or profitability. So an example of this might be if you're selling organic heirloom tomatoes, you might value those or sell those $3 to $4 a pound, whether it's in your CSA share, online store, farmer's market. If you're selling at a produce auction, same exact tomato, maybe even prettier, you might only get $1 to $2 a pound. And so that can look flashy at the beginning. I'm doubling my profit if I sell it at a farmer's market. However, a middleman plays a role, and they don't always get the best rap, and that's probably fair, but they play a role of transportation and packaging and selling and customer service. And so if you're going all the way to the consumer, those functions don't just vanish into thin air. The farmer is assuming all of those steps. So you have to be more efficient than what you could pay someone else to do it. So that's just an important thing to consider. Folks who are successful in this marketplace, uh, I think it's people who like the customer interaction. They like full control over every step. Uh, a challenge can be, I've heard several farmers that I've worked with this year who are in their first, I would say, 2 to 3 years of production, and many of them sold at farmers markets. They didn't realize that they had really gotten into farming for production, but they didn't realize that like half of it was this marketing and sales aspect, and getting people to the market, displaying their product, selling it, answering questions, social media. And they didn't really like that, but that's half of the game. You can be awesome at production, but if you can't sell it or if you don't like interacting with the consumer, this may not be the best market channel for you. So, um, moving on to wholesale. I'm excited about wholesale opportunities, specific ones. I think, especially for certified organic folks, it narrows your wholesale opportunities a little bit, and I think it's I have hope for it anyway. In Kentucky, in the 2019 organic survey, 1.8 million to retail institutions and food hubs in Kentucky. I think probably distributors are included in that food hub category. Depending on your definition of wholesale, you might consider this, like a hardcore wholesale, or it might be more of a what we might label a soft wholesale market channel. But again, that's less than the direct marketing category. So your marketing, if you're primarily selling through wholesale channels, is going to look completely different than if you're direct marketing to your consumer. All of your marketing materials, like your website, maybe brochures, they need to be very buyer oriented. So if that's a grocery store, they're going to want to know certain things. If it's a chef, your language needs to be completely different than if you're selling to a home cook at for a family, And the website again, or maybe like your ordering system is very, very different than the online shopping cart or CSA model. The software is different than the other options. So you just need to know that. And I think if you're in the direct marketing channel already and you're interested in wholesale, you can't expect everything that you've developed so far to work for this market channel. You're going to have to spend some time developing new efforts to be successful here. I think phone calls and networking is really important marketing aspect of selling wholesale. So making those phone calls, maybe social media becomes a little bit less important. But one thing I wanted to say about this is that there's people in the state to help you network with wholesale buyers. So myself, and there's several other folks that work for various organizations who would be happy to help connect you to potential buyers for your product. So more on that later. Food safety and insurance, the highest level will be required for this market channel. And a lot of people think of that as a barrier, but record keeping is not necessarily difficult. You just need to have a system in place. Some people might enjoy that record keeping much more than they enjoy customer service at a farmer's market. So don't think of it in a terrible way. Just think of it as an aspect of doing business at this level. So some examples of food safety that might be required for selling wholesale: GAP, GHP, and GFSI. And I know that's a lot of acronyms, but GAP is good agricultural practices or good handling practices. And that just means that someone is coming to your facility, they're checking to make sure you've kept records, you've got a safety plan in place, you've got the right record keeping system. Similar to an organic audit, if you've had one of those. If you are certified organic, or if you're working towards that certification, you likely already have some of the systems in place and record keeping habits. So it's going to make this audit easier to accomplish, probably. There is a cost, but you can get some of that cost reimbursed through various programs in the state. We're very fortunate in Kentucky to have support for people who are transitioning to or going to get GAP audited or GHP. GFSI, that's Global Food Safety Initiative. This is something that some larger retailers are looking for. An example of this is if you shop at Kroger and if you've noticed some of the Kentucky raised meats available on the shelves, beef, lamb, pork, all of that was processed in a GFSI inspected meat processing facility. And there's only a couple of processing facilities in the state with this certification. Hopefully there'll be more in the future, but it's just important to know what folks require before you go into that market. And your proximity to maybe a processing facility or various market channels could have a huge effect on the profitability of pursuing this market channel. Production, I've got a couple pictures up there in the upper right hand corner. I've got a refrigerated semi truck, got pallets of product on concrete floor with a roof over their head. That's just a picture of what's going to be required to do business at this level. So it's going to be a large investment and likely only grade 1 products. If it's vegetable crops or if it's meat, maybe they only want certain cuts of meat. So very specific production. You might want to have a market channel set up for the things that don't meet that grade. Profit. So efficiencies are very important to be profitable at the wholesale level, whether it's efficiencies in your production practices, harvesting, washing, packing, mechanical, get used to having a repairman around. Those are going to help you make money still at the lower margins. We are talking lower margins, but we're talking much higher volumes. So I just encourage people before making a decision to do business or not, you need to know your break-even cost for your crops. And then you can simply do, back of the envelope math. If a sales opportunity comes your way, you may sell on a good day 150 pounds of tomatoes at farmer's market. But if you can sell 100 10-pound boxes to a wholesale client that just takes 30 minutes to load on a truck and go instead of standing at a market for 8 hours, just do the math. And your farm is going to have different costs than the farm next to you. So do the math for yourself, but it might be a profitable option. One thing, while we're on the topic of knowing your your break-even costs, I want to talk about cash flow. And cash flow is really important in farming. So I grew up in a family that farmed for our sole source of income, and my upbringing was pretty different than my friends. Other folks have a paycheck month to month. It looks exactly the same. Whereas my family had times of the year where it felt like we were living high on the hog, and other times that it was like, well, it's a little lean right now. We're gonna wait to buy those new shoes till 2 months or something like that. It's the same for all types of farming. It's whatever your season is. Generally, there's most of the year is geared up towards production, and then you have maybe just a couple months or a couple big weeks where you have huge sales. So even with something like a CSA model that seems long, maybe a 22 weeks season, that's still only like half of the year. So farming is a very seasonal enterprise, and cash flow becomes really important. One distinction I want to make about wholesale is that it can become, if you need to pay your employees, but you're waiting on a check that the wholesale buyer doesn't send you till 2 months after the product left your dock versus getting the cash the same day at farmer's market, that becomes a really important thing to know. And you need to have maybe a loan set up, or you need to have the savings to get you through those lean months. So a little bit more on that. I just want to touch on this hybrid section. Marketing, brand recognition is going to be important for both consumers and wholesale buyers. Um, Food safety and insurance, you're probably going to need everything that we talked about on the wholesale uh, slide. Even some buyers won't even do business with you unless you have $1 or $2 million product liability insurance plan. Production, we've talked about efficiencies and improvements. The thing that I want to get to here, the point, is profit. So profit in this hybrid, and what I mean by hybrid is you're dabbling in a little bit of both. It can be tough to manage the profitability when you've got all sorts of different market channels going on. But the thing that I want to talk about here is that if you know you are really good at growing organic squash and zucchini or organic winter squash, and those are very profitable crops for you, maybe tomatoes, try to just hone in on 2 to 5 crops that you might be interested in marketing at a wholesale level. Don't offer your entire product list or try to gear up your entire product list for wholesale sales. Just pick ones that you like to grow, you're good at growing, it's profitable, and then you can market those to larger buyers and move more volume. And I think potentially this can also be an added source of revenue at lean times in the season. So you might set it up to, I'm going to grow X crop because I know I can sell it in this month. And well, that's the month that I really need to be buying a lot of fall amendments or fall seeds or something like that. So strategically look at crops that you might want to offer at the wholesale level. And you need to make sure that your record keeping practices are very stringent, because it can be tough to manage profitability when you've got different methods of sales going on. So lastly, I'm just trying to wrap it up quickly. KCARD services, I've got this top row. These are our main services, and most of these are for free to Kentucky farmers and ag businesses, thanks to support of Kentucky Ag Development Board and other sources. But starting your business, if you're a farmer who's wanting to start a farm business, we can assist with business and marketing plans, financial development, feasibility studies. If you want to grow your business, if you've been around for a while, but you need a business management and operations analysis, record keeping assistance, maybe that facility or store layout assessment, we can help with that. Those are all free. Developing a cooperative, KCARD is a cooperative development center, so we can assist you through that process. We've helped several cooperatives in the state and continue to. So those are kind of our top level services, and then under here we've got supporting offerings that we offer to Kentucky farmers. So one of those is helping you find funding, whether that's a low interest loan or grant opportunity. We've got a grant facilitator on staff. We do not write grants for Kentucky farmers, but we help them review what they might be eligible for. The Kentucky Local Food System Expansion Initiative, that's what I'm working under. And the goal of that is to help Kentucky farmers reach new buyers, scale up their sales, help them network and navigate buyers. Kentucky Ag Vets, that's new this year as well. Connecting Kentucky veterans to agricultural opportunities through education, mentorships, hands-on learning. We're looking forward to really launching that in the coming year. And then lastly, just helping you learn new skills. So whether maybe your farmer's market needs a board training, or you need QuickBooks or Excel trainings, maybe you need a manager or staff training, or you're getting ready to hire your first employee. Those are all things that we can assist with. So just really enjoyed talking to you all today. I think January, February is an awesome time to dream about what your farm business might become, and to take where you want it to be in 5 years, and just take one step right now to help you get there. So I hope this presentation was helpful to think about what market channel is going to be a good option for your farm. It's important, I think, to consider your personal values and your personal life and how it aligns with these varying market channels. So would love to connect with more of the organic farmers in Kentucky. I've got my email and my direct phone number and our website on this page. So I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to learning myself the rest of the OAK conference. So